Exposed, how one heartwarming defense from a billionaire husband transformed his wife's life forever. Sarah stood on the opulent balcony of the Minneapolis Gala, where laughter swirled like a fine wine in crystalline glasses. She gazed out over the glittering skyline, the city lights twinkling like stars come to earth. Once, she dreamed of this life, with its promise of wealth and prestige. But tonight, that dream felt like a gilded cage. The whispers of high society guests echoed in her ears, every polite smile hiding judgment. "Look at the small-town girl," they murmured, and Sarah's heart sank. What would they know of her modest upbringing in River Falls? The values of hard work and community seemed lost among the shimmering gowns and tailored suits. Sarah felt the weight of their stares, her grip on Jake's hand tightening. He radiated confidence in his custom-tailored jacket, his blue eyes shining as he chatted effortlessly with the city's elite. Her breath hitched. Somewhere inside this lavish facade lay the man she loved. Yet tonight, she felt like an imposter. With each passing minute, the excitement drained from her, replaced by a gnawing sense of isolation. The table they sat at, draped in silk, felt like an island where she was the outsider and observer in a world meant for someone else. The sweet aroma of hors d'oeuvres filled the air, but all she could taste was bitterness. Just as she was ready to retreat to the confines of the restroom to gather herself, her phone buzzed. A text from her mother flashed across the screen. "Sarah, you've changed. Is it worth it?" Anxiety gripped her. Did her family think she had forgotten where she came from? That she was abandoning her roots for the shimmer of wealth? Jake's voice cut through her thoughts. He turned toward her, concern etched on his face. "You all right?" She smiled weakly, hiding her turmoil beneath the surface. They continued mingling, but the tension was palpable, building like a tempest. The evening reached a boiling point when a scandal erupted. A gossip column splashed across the screens projected in the foyer, questioning Sarah's worthiness as Jake's wife. It described her as a small-town delight turned gold digger. Tears stung her eyes as she heard the whispers, the laughter, the cruel scrutiny. It felt relentless. And then, at the charity event where she had hoped to finally shine, Jake took the stage. "Let me tell you about the woman I married," he began, the microphone amplifying every word. "She's not just my wife, she's the one who supported me when I was a nobody." The audience was silent, tension crackling in the air. Sarah's breath caught, hope mingled with fear. But the applause she expected morphed into murmurs of disbelief. Questions floated. Was this billionaire truly in love with her? A rift opened wider. Words like socialite and equality filled the room, bruised by skepticism. Sarah stood rooted in place, feeling as if she were caught between two worlds, one of unyielding affection and another of harsh realities. Could Jake's love protect her from the merciless judgment of this world? Was she ready to fight for herself, for their life together, or would she choose the comfort of her roots in River Falls, where she felt whole? As she met Jake's determined gaze, a maelstrom of conflicting emotions coursed through her. What defined her worth in this moment? Hope battled with despair, and in that instant, all that became clear was the choice before her, a choice that would redefine not just her future, but the love that bound them together. Sarah's heart thudded against her ribcage, a wild drum echoing against the backdrop of hushed tones and sharp glances. She wanted to scream, to run, to hide from the weight of scrutiny that pressed down like a dark cloud. But as she stood there, her hand still grasping Jake's, she felt an unexpected surge of defiance. "Jake," she whispered, her voice a mere breath against the chaos. "I can't stand this. I can't." He looked down, his gaze piercing into hers, and in that moment, she saw something deeper, something that flickered with an understanding that sparked hope. "We can't let them define us," he whispered back, his grip firm. "You are more than what they think." His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket, igniting something inside. But she still felt torn, clinging to the threads of her past, the simple joys of her old life. What had it all meant if she were to be forever tossed around in a society that questioned her every decision, her every intention? "Let us show them," Jake said suddenly, his blue eyes alight with determination. "Let us turn this around." With a deep breath, Sarah felt the first flickers of resolve. She nodded, her chin lifting a fraction. "Okay," she said, allowing a spark of belief to dance in her chest. "Let us show them who I really am." As Jake returned to his speech, his voice steady and strong, Sarah moved through the crowd, her legs feeling steadier with every step. She approached the gossip columnists with their cameras flashing, their murmurs of doubt creating an invisible barrier she was determined to cross. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. Heads turned, and a silence fell over the room, a momentary pause in the storm. The columnists regarded her with incredulous smiles, surprise painting their faces. "I'm not just a trophy or a small-town girl. I've worked hard for everything I have, and that includes standing by my husband. The love we share is real, and it's powerful. I want to let your words shape my story." The room held its breath, the grand chandelier above shimmering like 1,000 eyes watching her every move. Jake watched from a distance, his heart thrumming with pride. It was the spotlight he wanted Sarah to feel, for her truth to stand unabashed before the world. But then, Sarah's mother's words echoed again in her mind. Did she not owe her past anything? What would her family think if she completely stepped into this new identity? Would they still recognize her? As cheers and whispers of encouragement began to rise, Sarah felt a crack in her heart, a painful but necessary fissure between her past and the new life she was stepping into. In that crack laid uncertainty, and yet, the path to her truth began to take form. "Let us redefine what it means to belong," she declared, glancing at Jake, feeling the fire of unity between them flourish. The guests exchanged glances, surprised, intrigued, maybe even slightly impressed, but it was the doubt that lingered more than anything, and it fueled her further. With renewed vigor, she turned to face the stunning skyline beyond the balcony, the city lights twinkling yet again, but now shining with new purpose. What if she could fuse her old self with this new persona? What could that look like? Determined, she nodded to Jake, her voice steady now. "Together, we can conquer this." The audience was listening, holding their breath. But amongst the support, she could sense the tension still. It shifted in the air, a lingering question, a challenge. Would they accept her? Would she still have her family's love when all was said and done? As she glanced into the crowd, a flash caught her eye. Someone was recording. The unease settled back in. Would this truly be the moment that changed everything? Or would it only initiate a battle that felt endless? Sarah's breath hitched again, the weight heavy upon her shoulders. She closed her eyes for a moment, gathering her strength, as the questions of acceptance loomed overhead like a storm waiting to break. What would they do next? Would this moment lead to acceptance or further rejection? As Sarah stood on the balcony, the city's skyline sprawled out behind her like a twisting maze of lights. She felt both visible and vulnerable. Each flash from the cameras felt like an accusation, illuminating her insecurities. She had unleashed her truth, but now she was waiting for the fallout. A moment hung in the air, a heartbeat stretching into an eternity. The crowd shifted, murmurs rippling through the sea of faces. Curiosity, skepticism, lingering doubt painted their expressions. Sarah's breath quickened. Jake, her steadfast anchor, remained behind her, a silent force she could feel even in stillness. "Don't you dare take a step back," she silently urged herself. "You've come too far." "Sarah!" A voice called out, slicing through the murmurs. It was Emily, her childhood friend, elbowing her way closer. A flicker of relief washed over Sarah. Sarah called back, an instinctive smile breaking free. "I'm glad you're here." Emily's eyes sparkled with encouragement. "I saw everything." "That was so brave." The warmth of Emily's support gave Sarah confidence. As she turned back to the rest of the crowd, the flutter of doubt began to dim. She envisioned her family in the audience and felt a tightening in her chest. What would her mom say? Or her dad? Would they feel proud, or would they turn their backs on her newfound strength? "Be honest," she mouthed to Jake, who nodded with a small yet reassuring smile. Their connection was palpable, a tether grounding her amidst the anxiety swirling in her heart. "I promise, no matter what happens next," Jake said softly, leaning closer, "I'll be right here." A clearer breath escaped her lips, and her heart swelled a bit more. Just as she sorted through her thoughts, a familiar figure stepped toward the front. It was Brad, her brother. His rugged demeanor clashed with the elegance of the soiree, but the fierce loyalty shining in his eyes told her everything she needed to know. "Sarah," he said, his voice booming despite the crowd. "I know I haven't always understood you, but I have seen how hard you've fought. You're not just Jake's wife, you're a force. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me." Gasps echoed and, surprisingly, someone cheered. A ripple of support surged through the crowd, igniting the kind of energy that made Sarah's cheeks flush with warmth. Maybe, just maybe, her family would stand beside her in this. Maybe they still loved her. In that moment, doubts began to dissolve, leaving behind an ember of hope. Looking at Brad, she realized he might not get every choice she made, but he still believed in her spirit. That was something she could hold on to. But then, the sharp-eyed vultures circling above caught her attention again. They feasted on every bit of drama, every hidden scandal. What if they twisted her words? What if they painted her story as one of rebellion rather than resilience? "Here goes nothing," she whispered, summoning the deepest reserve of her strength. She stepped to the edge of the balcony and raised her voice, slicing through the electric air that buzzed with anticipation. "I know you all have stories in mind about who I am, about who I should be. But the truth is, life isn't just about one narrative. We all have chapters, and I'm done being ashamed of mine." Tension surged again, but this time, it was mixed with understanding. A murmur of agreement rolled through some, while others shifted, uncertain. "I want to share my journey with you, not to prove anything, but to show that we can redefine our paths. We can create our own futures." Applause broke through. Small at first, but it grew. Jake's hand squeezed hers, a silent affirmation that sparked a fire. But just as the energy reached a peak, the door creaked open, and in walked someone she least expected, her mother. Sarah's stomach twisted. Would this be the moment of acceptance or rejection? The spotlight now cast a new shadow, and Sarah held her breath, waiting for the verdict. Would her mother stand with her, or would this be the tipping point of despair? As her mother moved closer, Sarah could only wonder, what would happen next? The atmosphere shifted as Sarah's mother moved through the crowd. Time slowed with every step she took. Sarah felt the weight of her mother's gaze, a mix of confusion and disappointment etched into her features. Her heart raced, drowning in a sea of questions. What would her mother say? Would she finally understand? "Mom, please." Sarah whispered under her breath, the tremor of a plea escaping her lips. "Is this really you?" Her mother finally said, her voice quivering with disbelief. The audience hushed, all ears on the impending conversation. Sarah's throat tightened. "Yes, it is. I've been scared to show it, but I'm tired of hiding who I am." She searched her mother's face for any sign of reassurance but found only a jumble of emotions battling for dominance. "Your choices, they have consequences, Sarah. I can't just support everything you do," her mother replied, crossing her arms defensively. The tension was palpable, and Sarah wanted to shrink away, to retreat back into the shadows. But she stood firm. She had enough of retreating. "Mom, I'm not asking you to agree. Just listen to me. This isn't rebellion, it's freedom. Can't you see I'm trying to live my truth?" The murmurs resumed, with supporters whispering words of backup sprinkled with sides of skepticism. Sarah could sense the crowd's unease, but she pressed on. "We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But we can grow together. Can't you at least try to understand?" Her mother's gaze softened for just a moment, a flicker of acknowledgement passed through her eyes before the steeliness returned. "You're so caught up in this fight, Sarah. I worry that you'll lose yourself in the process. Mom, I've already lost myself by trying to be the person you wanted me to be, Sarah confessed, choking back tears. I just want to be me, the real me. And then, like a delicate thread, Sarah's mom reached out, a hesitant gesture, but a gesture nonetheless. The crowd seemed to hold its collective breath. Each second stretched as they stood there, caught in an emotional tug-of-war. Why can't you just find a different way to express yourself? She finally murmured, the hint of sorrow washing over her voice, revealing vulnerability. You don't have to do it this way. Sarah felt the heat of frustration mingle with a tinge of hope. But this is my way, Mom. I'm learning that it's okay to be loud about my needs, my dreams. I don't want to keep dimming my light. I want to show others they can do the same. The silence that followed was thick with uncertainty. The crowd began to shift again, some searching for answers, others hanging on the emotional edge of this mother-daughter moment. Don't you see? Being real is the only way to open doors for everyone, not just for me, Sarah added, her voice rising slightly, fueled by the energy of the crowd rallying behind her. After what felt like an eternity, her mother finally took a deep breath. Then show me who that person really is. With those words, the weight lifted ever so slightly, the tension morphing into a cautious bridge. Sarah nodded, her heart racing anew. This was only the beginning. As she stood tall, the applause from the crowd strengthened, echoing her resilience. She glanced at Jake, whose pride shone through. This moment felt like a victory, yet it was also a challenge accepted. How would she weave her truth into a narrative of love, understanding, and growth? But just then, a flash from a camera caught her eye. A journalist reporting the moment had a look of curiosity mixed with skepticism. What would they write about this confrontation? The world outside would shape their narrative, far removed from the truth she wished to foster. Caught between the internal and external expectations, Sarah wondered what the aftermath would hold. Would her words bring her closer to her mother or drive them apart? As the crowd cheered, Sarah took one last look at her mother, an unspoken question lingering in the air. What path would they navigate together from here? The spotlight was on them, but Sarah realized her journey had just begun. As the applause faded, a hush fell over the crowd, and all eyes turned back to Sarah and her mother. The moment hung in the air, heavy with possibility and uncertainty. Sarah's heart pounded, each beat a reminder of how far she was from the safety of silence. Mom, she began, her voice steadier now, I want to show you everything. The art, the music, the way I've learned to express myself. It's all part of who I am. Can you give me that chance? Her mother hesitated, the shield she often wore slipping just a crack. I just don't know what it means for the life we've built. The weight of those words settled over Sarah like a heavy blanket. The life they built. Was she meant to fit into some mold crafted by someone else's expectations? She fought back the frustration bubbling inside her. What if it means building something new? Something even better? The audience murmured, echoing her sentiment. They could feel the rawness of this exchange, the intensity of a mother trying to protect her daughter from a world that had often proven to be cold and unyielding. But Sarah's voice pushed through that cacophony, cutting straight to her mother's heart. I wish you could see how amazing it feels to be myself, she said, her eyes locking onto her mother's, seeking a bridge across the emotional chasm that threatened to separate them. I can't promise the road will be easy, but I promise to take you along with me. We can figure this out together. There was a long pause, a stillness where only their breaths echoed. For a fleeting moment, Sarah could see her mother's resolve crumble, replaced by vulnerability, a love reaching out for connection amidst the fears of what lay ahead. Then, her mother sighed deeply, releasing a breath that seemed to carry years of pressure. If the world learns to respect you, I suppose I need to as well, she said quietly, her voice heavy but showing a flicker of acceptance. It was an opening, a tiny fissure in the wall built from years of misunderstanding. As silence enveloped them, Sarah felt the crowd's energy shift. What had once been tension transformed into a palpable sense of support, a shared wish for understanding and acceptance. Let us start small, Sarah suggested, her mind racing with ideas. How about an art show? My paintings, my music, everything I've created. It could be a way to share my journey, my real journey with you and everyone else. Her mother's brow furrowed, clearly wrestling with the concept. It would require her to step into an unfamiliar world, one where the daughter she knew would be on full display. What if people don't accept it? Then we'll face it together. No matter the backlash, I'll still be here, Sarah replied firmly. We'll show that this path can lead to something beautiful. Each word was a seed planted in the fertile ground of hope. With each passing moment, the crowd's cheers encouraged Sarah, wrapping around her like a protective blanket. Her heart began to swell again, this time with anticipation instead of fear. As they stood together, the camera flashes continued, capturing this rare moment of openness between them. But Sarah didn't mind the scrutiny, it felt crucial to her journey. She craved for others to see not just her struggles, but her triumphs, her dance into the light. Then she felt a gentle squeeze on her shoulder. It was Jake, stepping close with a proud smile. You did it, Sarah. The real you is shining through. But just as she felt the warmth of his support, a familiar face emerged from the throng. A figure from her past who had always doubted her. The journalist from earlier, with skepticism now replaced by unguarded curiosity. What will you say next? He asked, a challenge ringing in his voice. Sarah's heart raced again. She had opened her heart, now it was time to show everyone, including her mother, what that truly meant. Would she seize this moment or let it slip away? The answer lay ahead, but it would require all the courage she had. Could she transform her past wounds into a weapon of strength? Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the powerful energy of support around her. She was ready not just for herself, but for the woman beside her. And as she opened her mouth to speak, she realized this was a defining moment, one that could either pull them apart or weave them closer together. What words would shape their future? The better. The words hung in the air, feeling both weighty and liberating. As Sarah stepped forward, her gaze swept over the audience. Each familiar face stared back, some filled with support and others with doubt. One thought gnawed at her: this wasn't just for them, it was about her, her growth, and her voice. She wanted to prove that her art, her music, and her identity mattered. I spent years hiding, she began, her voice trembling but resolute. Hiding from who I truly am because I thought it would protect me. Protect my mother and everyone else around me. She noticed her mother's brow furrow deeper, the worry etched on her face, but Sarah pressed on, feeling the swell of courage rise within her. But all it did was isolate me. I felt like I was living someone else's life. A ripple of gasps floated through the crowd. Some heads nodded in understanding, others couldn't fathom the depth of her confession. I've learned that authenticity isn't just a buzzword, it's a lifeline. My passion, it's not just art or music. It's my way of navigating the world, my way of connecting with you. She fought against the knot in her throat, determined not to backtrack. I don't want to live in fear anymore. I want to celebrate everything I am, and I want you all to see it. Her mother's expression softened, a flicker of something, pride perhaps, crossed her features. Sarah's chest felt lighter as she caught that glimpse of hope. This was the bridge she'd been searching for. And to everyone out there who feels like they're alone in their struggle, Sarah continued, her voice gaining strength, I want to say that you're not. If I can step into my truth, then so can you. We can amplify our voices together. The crowd erupted into applause once more, but this time, it felt different. It was thunderous and defiant. It was as if they were rallying behind her, embracing her story, her journey. Amid the cheers, the journalist's face transformed. Gone was the skepticism, now it was pure intrigue. What do you hope to achieve with your journey? He asked, his tone almost respectful now. Sarah paused. The question was deep, layered. I want to inspire people to love themselves unapologetically. I want to start conversations about acceptance, about the beauty in diversity. This isn't just about me, it's about all of us. Her voice cracked slightly at the words, the rawness of her conviction unraveling every fear she had held tight. She stepped off the ledge of uncertainty toward an audience that felt tangible, who were now waiting breathing with her. As the cheers began to swell again, Sarah's gaze fell on her mother. She felt like it was an invitation not to just witness her transformation but to participate in it. Will you come with me on this journey? She asked, the question laced with vulnerability. Her mother looked at her, and for a moment, the noise around them faded. It was just them. The lingering connection that had been frayed began to pulse with newfound possibility. I want to try, her mother finally said, her voice thick with emotion. But it won't be easy. Nothing about this journey ever was, Sarah replied, a smile breaking through her anxiety. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. This was a start, a foundation for something that could evolve over time. But before she could soak it all in, a distant chatter gripped Sarah's attention. She turned to see a group lingering, their faces confused and scornful. She recognized them as classmates from her past. The judgment in their eyes pierced her newfound confidence, and she felt a cold shiver run through her. Do you think she'll last? One of them scoffed, their voice dripping with disdain. The mood in the room shifted, pulling Sarah from her moment of triumph into the harsh light of reality. Doubts echoed in her mind. Would she truly be able to hold on to this new identity? As she took a deep breath, preparing to respond, she remembered the warmth of acceptance she had just felt from her mother and the crowd. Her heart raced, not out of fear now, but from the weight of the very real challenge ahead. What would her answer be? Would it resonate with the audience or send her spiraling back into doubt? In that defining moment, Sarah realized she had a choice. She could make this a moment of strength or let it define her. Stepping back into the spotlight, she steadied herself, prepared to confront her past. Could she rise above it? Would this be the moment she proved to herself, and the world, that she could? The seconds seemed to stretch as Sarah faced the group. The murmurs felt like weights pressing down on her shoulders, but she could feel the electric buzz of the crowd, a reminder that she was not alone. In that moment, she decided to lean into her newfound strength, to flip the script. What if I don't want to just last? She called out, her voice steady and clear. What if I want to thrive? Gasps echoed through the audience. Some faces shifted from judgment to surprise. The self-doubt that had crept in began to retreat, replaced with resolve. This was a pivotal moment, one where she refused to cower in the shadows of her past. I'm here to prove that growing is more than existing, Sarah continued, her eyes locked onto the faces of her doubters. It's about flourishing, sharing, and connecting with music, with art, and with openness. If I fall, I'll get back up. If I struggle, I'll find my way through. Each word resonated with the energy of the crowd. They shared in her determination, cheering her on like a wave crashing against a shore, building momentum. She could see her mother's expression transform from worry to an encouraging smile. But what if it's too hard? One of the classmates challenged, their tone softer but still edged with skepticism. You can't just pretend everything's fine. Sarah inhaled, taking in that moment. Life is hard, she replied, passion igniting her words. And feeling is complicated. But pretending is the worst kind of loneliness. I choose to face the messiness. If I can inspire just one person to embrace who they are, then I've won. Suddenly, she felt lighter, as if she were shedding an old skin. The audience was leaning forward, intrigued. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about a collective journey toward acceptance. I spent so long worrying about what everyone thought of me, she said, her vulnerability spilling from her words like color on a canvas. But now I want to know who you are. What do you struggle with? What do you love? A murmur passed through the crowd. Curiosity replaced doubt. People began to shift in their seats, their defensiveness melting away in the warmth of her honesty. Then she pointed to the journalist. You, bring the questions. Let us have a real conversation. The challenge hung between them, and for a moment, Sarah felt as if they all stood on the same precipice, ready to leap together. As he stood, his voice rang out, "What if this is all just fluff? How will you keep this momentum going?" Sarah grinned, her heart racing with exhilaration. Authenticity isn't a moment, it's a commitment. I'm not here to promise perfection. I'm here to embrace the ups and downs. If I falter, there will be others right here who will lift me back up. With those words, a palpable shift occurred in the crowd. Encouragement grew into a chorus of hope, transforming the once skeptical atmosphere into one filled with collective belief. There was laughter, shared glances, and even tears streaming down cheeks that had once been hardened by indifference. Her classmates, once poison-tipped arrows of dismissal, now seemed like impressionable souls navigating their own paths of uncertainty. They were beginning to see her not as a caricature of her past but as someone brave enough to ignite change. As the applause roared once again, a stirring hope blossomed in Sarah's heart. She turned her gaze to her mother, who was nodding with approval. But just as she felt the warmth of acceptance, a vague figure appeared at the back of the crowd. Sarah's heart sank. It was someone else from her past, someone she hadn't seen in years. Their expression was shrouded in shadows of familiarity and bitterness that threatened to undo everything. What did they want? Why did they come? As waves of anxiety crashed back into her, Sarah realized her journey was only beginning. Just as she tightened her grip on her resolve, the figure stepped forward, locking eyes with her. What would they say? How would they react to the new Sarah? The tension hung heavily in the air, and Sarah's mind raced, teetering on the edge of vulnerability and strength. Was she ready to face this new challenge? Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the figure emerged from the shadows. It was Derek, the boy who had once been her best friend and later her worst nightmare. Memories flooded her mind, the laughter of their youth intermingled with the pain of betrayal. He had been her anchor, and then he had let her drift. "Sarah," he said, his voice cutting through the newfound energy like glass. The crowd quieted, tension vibrating in the air like strings about to snap. "What are you doing here?" This isn't you. A knot twisted in her stomach. Part of her wanted to recoil, to disappear into the ground or into the supportive arms of someone familiar. But she stood tall, meeting his gaze. "This is exactly who I am now. This is who I always wanted to be." "Really?" He scoffed, the incredulity laced with something sharper, something that tingled with resentment. "You think people actually care about your feelings? They applaud you now, but when it gets hard they abandon you. They always do." The whispers of doubt from the audience began to creep into her mind, but she forced herself to focus. "You think I'm just standing here for applause? I'm sharing because it matters. It's about connection and vulnerability, a truth that can change lives, even if it starts with just one." She could see a flicker of something in Derek's eyes, but it flickered away as quickly as it came. "You think you can open up and change the world just like that? It's not that easy, Sarah." "Maybe not," she countered, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. "But it's a start. Change doesn't happen overnight. It happens in pieces, in moments that define us. I have the chance to inspire others, to help them confront their struggles. Why wouldn't I take it?" He shook his head, as if her words were foreign. "What happened to you? You used to care what everyone thought. You were afraid." "I still am afraid," she admitted, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "But I'm not letting that control me anymore. I have to own my story, even the messy parts. It's what makes us human, sharing our flaws, our dreams, the reality of who we are." The audience seemed to lean in closer, sensing the raw intensity of the exchange. Sarah could feel their attention shifting, the collective breath they were holding as they absorbed this confrontation. Derek took a step forward, his expression softened, and for a fleeting moment, the walls he built around himself seemed to falter. "Those people out there, they'll turn on you. Just like I did. No, she replied, her heart racing with conviction. Because I'm not afraid to seek out those who relationships built on honesty are stronger than distance. I will find my people, not just in this moment, but moving forward. His expression hardened again, a protective mask slipping back into place. You don't know what you're asking. Maybe I don't, Sarah said gently, her heart aching for the boy she once knew, who had become a shell. But I'm ready to try regardless. This is my moment. And I'm in it for the long haul. She watched as realization flickered in his eyes. A mirage of regret? Fear? It didn't matter now. He was another chapter of her old story, one she was ready to close. Guess you'll have to find out if I can really do it, she said, forcing a smile, her voice cutting through the tension in the air. I'm not going anywhere, Derek. This is just the beginning. With that, she turned back to the crowd, their faces mirroring a mixture of surprise and admiration. But nothing felt quite right. Derek's lingering gaze sent a chill through her. She thought he might break, but instead, he stepped back, disappearing into the sea of faces that had once sought to obliterate her. The cheering returned, but a sense of unease settled in her stomach. Was she really ready to leave everything behind? As the last echoes of applause faded, a new voice rose from the crowd, someone saying her name. Who was it? What did it mean for her journey ahead? The hairs on the back of her neck prickled. Could this be another ghost from her past, arriving at a time she needed strength the most? Fear and uncertainty swirled within her, but the fire to embrace every moment blazed just as bright. What would they want? Would they stand with her, or would they seek to pull her back down? Sarah's heart raced as she turned toward the sound. The crowd seemed to shatter into multiple layers, each face blurring together. Yet, one voice cut through like a beacon. Sarah. It was a voice she recognized instantly. Emily. Her closest friend since childhood. In the rows of spectators, Emily's bright hair stood out like sunshine breaking through the clouds, and her eyes sparkled with a mixture of excitement and concern. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Seeing Emily, the anchor she had missed desperately, was like a balm on her frazzled nerves. But an undercurrent of anxiety gripped her tightly. What would Emily think of her new path? Was she supportive, or would she bring back the shadows of doubt that had followed her for so long? Without thinking, Sarah took a step toward her, determination driving her forward. What are you doing here? She called out, her pulse still pounding. In that moment, the world around her seemed to fade. All that mattered was this confrontation, this connection. Emily pushed through the crowd, her expression firm and warm. I came to see you. I was worried, after everything that happened with Derek, I just needed to be here. She placed her hands on Sarah's shoulders, grounding her in a way that felt instant and familiar. I'm fine, really, Sarah reassured, but her voice trembled slightly. I faced him. It was intense. I saw, Emily whispered, eyes wide with admiration and empathy. You were incredible up there. Brave. She took a deep breath, and the weight in her eyes flickered. But are you sure about this? Sharing your story? Exposing yourself like that? I have to be, Sarah replied. I want to help others, to be real. I need to own my story, choices and all. I can't go back. A vine of doubt wrapped around her heart, but she shook it off. Confidence surged through her again, reminding her of her purpose. Emily stepped back, the pride beaming from her. I know. I'm proud of you. Just remember, you don't have to go through all this alone. You've got me. Her voice softened, and she added, and I'm ready to support you, wherever this journey leads. Gratitude filled Sarah's chest, a warmth radiating that gave her strength. Just then, a ripple of whispers clashed against her ears. The audience had shifted, their focus drawn elsewhere. Sarah turned to find another figure stepping forward, a new presence breaking through the crowd. It was a man, tall with an aura of confidence that commanded attention. Sarah squinted, trying to place him, and as he drew nearer, recognition struck her like a bolt of lightning. It was Jason, Derek's older brother, someone she had hardly seen since their youth. Would he come to judge, or was he here to offer something unexpected? "Sarah!" Jason called, his voice deep and steady, cutting through the tension. "I need to talk to you." Her heart raced again, but this time it was a mix of curiosity and apprehension. What could he possibly want? Derek's brother had always been an enigmatic figure, somebody who floated around the edges of their lives. Now, his timing felt too uncanny to be a coincidence. As he closed the distance, Sarah felt uncertainty tugging at her resolve. The smile began to fade from Emily's face, replaced with concern. "Are you okay?" she whispered. "I'm not sure," Sarah murmured, torn. "What's Jason doing here?" Jason finally reached her, and for a moment, the world around her dimmed as her heart thudded aggressively in her chest. She couldn't shake the uneasiness that tied her stomach in knots. What was about to unfold? "Sarah, please. I need you to hear me out." "It's important," he urged, his expression unusually serious. Sarah exchanged a glance with Emily, who looked equally puzzled and wary. What was it that Jason needed so desperately to say? As the air thickened with apprehension, she felt the ground beneath her begin to shift. Would this be another challenge, or a pivotal moment she never saw coming? The question hung in the air like the dormant weight of untold secrets. She could feel the tides of change rolling toward her once more, and she couldn't look away. Sarah's heart raced as she met Jason's steady gaze, almost sensing a ghost of the boy she once knew. Or perhaps it was just the weight of history pressing down on them. "What's going on, Jason?" she asked, her voice steady, but her insides knotted with uncertainty. His expression softened, the seriousness tempered with a hint of vulnerability. "I came to talk about Derek and about you. I know who you really are, Sarah. I always have." The crowd remained still, breaths awaiting the next act, a quiet intensity enveloping them. Sarah glanced at Emily, who stood wide-eyed, leaning slightly closer, as if to absorb every word. "Derek's been a mess," Jason continued, looking down at his shoes before meeting her eyes again. "He's been spiraling, pushing everyone away. I'm worried that the confrontation with you put him in a darker place, one he doesn't see a way out of. I wish you could help him, maybe find a way to communicate." A wave of confusion washed over Sarah. Help him? After everything? She could hardly believe what he was asking. "You want me to reach out to someone who hurt me like that?" "Sarah," he pressed gently, urgency in his tone. "I know you're holding your ground, and I respect that so much. But Derek is struggling. He needs to know it's okay to feel, to lean on someone like you. You have a gift for reaching people. You've shown everyone here that it's alright to be vulnerable." The crowd shifted, a ripple of murmurs cascading through the audience. Sarah felt their eyes on her, waiting for her response. Jason's words tugged at a part of her that she had buried deep, the part that sought to help, to mend. Could she extend her heart to someone who had once shattered it? But, could she ignore how that hurt still thrummed in the background of her life? "You make it sound easy," she finally said, the doubt fluttering in her chest. "What if he rejects me again? What if he doesn't change? He can only grow through compassion, and you're the only one brave enough to inspire that in him," Jason urged, desperation creeping into his voice. The sincerity in his eyes was undeniable. "This isn't just about you, it can be about healing, a chance at redemption." Sarah's heart swelled with emotion, but a part of her recoiled at the idea. How could she be a healer while navigating her own pains? Then she remembered that moment on the balcony, guiding her voice toward acceptance, connecting with the crowd, her mother, and even with herself. "Okay," she said, surprising everyone, including herself. "I'll do it. I'll talk to him." The words felt like a spell, binding herself to an act of compassion even in the face of fear. Jason's relief washed over him, his shoulders relaxing, and a smile flickered on his face. "Thank you, Sarah. You're stronger than you even recognize. If anyone can reach him, it's you. But as relief bubbled within, Sarah felt a whisper of doubt. Was she strong enough for this? As she turned to the crowd, their cheers stirred her to stand tall once more. I've realized we all carry pieces of our past, she began, letting her heart, previously tethered to fear, soar. But we don't have to let them define us. We can choose how we want to let our stories unfold. My journey has been about finding my voice, and now I want to help others find theirs. With each word she spoke, she could feel her strength solidifying, a warmth spreading through her spirit. The audience leaned closer, captivated, every face reflecting the budding support of shared vulnerabilities. Derek may be part of my past, but he is also still a human being struggling with something deep. I owe it to not just him, but to everyone who has ever felt lost to try. We all deserve a chance to heal. The energy of the crowd shifted once more, this time into something akin to celebration and acknowledgement of resilience, of connection. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling as if each warm cheer woven with faith became a thread connecting her heart to theirs. Let us continue celebrating our truths together. She raised her voice even more passionately, let us support each other's journeys into the unknown, a desire to uplift one another as we chase our dreams. A wave of applause erupted, rolling like thunder, shaking her spirit free of any lingering doubt, but with the moment of clarity came the reality of the challenge ahead. Reaching out to Derek, sleeping wounds returning to the surface. With each heartbeat, anxiety mingled with determination. She squeezed Jason's arm, her unspoken gratitude evident. This is just the beginning, she said, her voice firm. As she stepped off the ledge of vulnerability back into the warmth of Emily's embrace, a warmth flowed from her heart, anchoring her spirit. She felt strengthened by the connection that blossomed in that night's revelations. And as laughter and hope swirled through the ballroom once more, Sarah glanced at the shimmering skyline. Once again it danced with vibrant potential. Tonight would ripple, forming waves of change, not just for her but for everyone who dared to step into the light. The applause continued like thunderous waves crashing on a shore, empowering, echoing hopes and dreams that sparked around them all. The night was over. This was a moment woven with courage, a promise that she would keep moving forward into whatever lay ahead, transforming mindsets and hearts along the way. But now, it was time for action. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.